When the Europeans came, they used Christianity to destabilize us, to colonialize us, and to sell us into slavery.
There is no religious leader who has claimed that he came to die for our salvation.
In Jesus, the Gentile and the Jew are united into one body.
They should also agree that God is eternal. If God is eternal, then there is the possibility that he has a better reason for coexisting with suffering or allowing suffering.
God cares. That is why he sent his son Jesus Christ to suffer pain for us, so that just as his heart was bleeding when his son was hanging on the cross, when you are suffering, God's heart bleeds. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. My name is Sampong. Welcome to Life and Religion Issues. You're welcome, beautiful people, to this channel. This channel was created purposely for discussions about life. As a great man, Socrates, said, great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. I believe we are great minds, so we're going to discuss great ideas about life. So you are very welcome. My name is Sampong. I'm favored today to have with me a very great friend and an astute student, Reverend Godibert Garbin, who is working on his PhD. So Reverend Garbin, you are very welcome.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Sampong.
Reverend
Thanks for having me.
You're good. Reverend Garbin is working on his PhD in theology, and there are a lot of difficult questions that we sometimes meet. And I'm going to throw one to him, and this one is about Christianity and our Africanness. So, Reverend Garbin, if someone were to say that Africa has its religious systems, culture and traditions before the Europeans came, and as we know, a people's cultural traditions give them their unique identity as well as their stability. If someone were to say that when the Europeans came, they used Christianity to destabilize us, to colonialize us, and to sell us into slavery. They took our lands, they took our minerals, they took everything. They took our minds. And so Christianity really is not for Africans. Africans must rather look for the ancestral religion and follow. What would you say?
Thank you for the question, Dr. Sampong. I would want to begin by indicating that Christianity is not European culture. Because if we propose that Christianity is European culture, then the legitimate question would be, how were they living before the emergence of Christianity? So first of all, Christianity is not European culture. That said, I think it is important for people to understand that Christianity is not an European culture imposed on the African, but Christianity was in Africa before many parts of the world, including Europe. And we say this because one of the books that help us to follow the progress of the church from its emergence on the day of Pentecost is the book of Acts. Now, in the book of Acts, the author of the book of Acts gives us a very wonderful passage that helps us to be able to trace where we have come from or where we came from. And this passage is in the book of Acts chapter 8, verse number 26 to 38. there was this Ethiopian eunuch who happened to be a proselyte and had gone to Jerusalem, and fortunately for him, on the day of Pentecost, when the Spirit of God was poured upon the early church, he was there when all these events happened. Now, the records that we have in the Bible tells us that he was from Ethiopia, but the historians tell us that he was actually from a place called Nubia, and not the present day Ethiopia, but Sudan. Now, what happened was this man is returning as a proselyte from his journey.
Let me interrupt you. What's a proselyte? For those of people who don't know what a proselyte is, you said this man used the word twice.
Okay.
He was a proselyte. What's a proselyte?
A proselyte is simply somebody, a Gentile, who has come to believe in the religion of the Jews. So it's like a Gentile who has come to believe in the Jewish faith, and it was their custom to participate in the things that the Jews do. So they had to travel pilgrimages to the holy city, to Jerusalem, and for religious activities. On one of these instances, he was traveling back to Africa, and then whilst in his chariot, he started reading the book of Isaiah the prophet. But then he was not able to understand this passage and needed someone to interpret what he was reading to him. The Bible tells us that Philip was transported by the Spirit of God to this particular place, and then he interprets what the man was reading to him. Now, Acts concludes the story of this Ethiopian eunuch by telling us that after his encounter with Philip, he traveled back to Africa. So we believe that this man was the first to have brought the gospel. Having received this interpretation, he was the first to have brought it to Africa. Though he did not bring it to every part of Africa, but if we speak about Africa as a whole in its entirety, then we can talk about the Ethiopian eunuch as the first we have in the Bible historically.
So in effect, you are saying that Christianity came to Africa before it went to Europe.
Yes, please.
Accepted, granted. Christianity came to Africa before it went to Europe.
Yes.
However, the missionaries who brought Christianity, it looks to me that Christianity thrived more in Europe later when it went there, and so the missionaries brought it back to us. Just as today, a lot of Africans go to Europe and to America to do what is termed as reverse mission. And so it seems to me that at that point, when the Europeans came, they were also doing some form of reverse mission. They were bringing the mission, that something that was already here, as you said, back here. However, we do not admit that they came with some kind of cultural imposition. The reason why I'm saying this is that, if I do remember well, one of the earliest Africans who became a catechist to the Presby missionary or Basel missionaries was Ephraim Amu. And if I do remember well, Ephraim Amu as a catechist wanted to show his African identity. And so he put on his cloth to go and preach. And the white people were not happy with that at all. They actually took him out of the pulpit. He shouldn't bring heathen attire to the pulpit. So what I'm saying is that, Christianity was here first before maybe went there. However, when they brought it, there was some kind of cultural imposition on us. Don't you think so?
Well, I think that the problem is, Ademu says that culture is the context within which there may be an engagement between God and the society or people. Now, even in the Bible, the incarnation happens in a particular context or culture. Now, anytime the word of God is planted in a culture and it is being transplanted to other areas, there is the tendency for the preacher or the proponent, the missionaries, to sort of infiltrate what they have received with their culture. And so to some extent, we would agree that there was some sort of imposition. But then, speaking about the fact that whether we should accept or reject because of some of the things that happens, I think I would like to probe further to lay a certain foundation for the people who are watching us to know that Christianity developed, and then we played a certain role in the development of Christianity in the world before some of these cultural impositions and other things possibly took place. I don't know if I can proceed.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so we see that in Acts chapter 11 verse 20, the Bible talks about the leadership of the church in Antioch, and the Bible mentions people from Cyrene, the present day Libya. So that means that even in the New Testament, Africa was actively involved. The present day Libya. We have Acts chapter 18, verse 24 to 36, the conversion of Apollos of Alexandria. And this man, we are told, became a missionary who went to places like Corinth to preach the gospel. So we have an African from Alexandria who visits Ephesus and is taking the gospel to Corinth, which is Europe. Now, in North Africa, like I said, when Christianity was brought by this Ethiopian eunuch in Africa, it didn't travel to every part of Africa. Like you have just spoken about reverse mission. But in some part of Africa, Christianity really developed. So we have Egypt. History tells us that the first Bible school, the catechetical school, was planted in the nation of Egypt. So from there we have people like Origen, who taught in that school for 20 years. And Origen is the first, according to the historical data we have, to have given us an orderly and complete statement of the Christian faith. And Origen is a product of that Bible school, the first Bible school. We can also speak about Tertullian, who was an apologist and the first to have coined the word Trinity. He was also an African. So basically, Doc, if you look at this document, I think that Africa has contributed greatly to Christianity in the world, even though generally it did not develop throughout Africa. And so there was the need for some people to bring it to other parts of Africa. But it was not something that was transported to Africa without any root or trace of Christianity on the continent of Africa.
Granted that we have these great men that church history teachers were from Africa, that the first Bible school or university, if you like, to train ministers in the world was in Africa, in Alexandria, in Egypt. And I believe you also know that the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, was actually translated into Greek, called the Septuagint, in Alexandria, in Egypt, in Africa. So Christianity Africa has very strong connection with Christianity before it went to Europe and all that. That is granted, and thank you for enlightening us. But the question I asked again is that when the missionaries in the 15th, 16th, 17th century, when they came, didn't they really impose their culture on us? And wasn't that the reason why they were able to destabilize us and make us feel like they were our masters and make us sell out ourselves to them? Or didn't they use Christianity to distort the hegemony, the unity that we had, and then use their divide and rule tactics so that we give ourselves to them? And because of that, we felt inferior to them. I believe that is why we may have allowed them to do all that they did to us. And if it's because of Christianity, why should we serve God through them?
Okay. It's an interesting question. I think that there was some sort of cultural imposition, but you see, the point is that the fact that someone has abused Christianity does not make Christianity evil. And we cannot really judge our system of belief based on the fact that few people have abused Christianity.